Every era thinks their era was the best.
Right.
But I'm telling you, if anyone from this era is going to tell me this era is better than my era, they're either ignorant or they just got too much pride.
And I asked you, why are, the older generation like Russ, Otis, Howard, yourself, they're very pessimistic when they talk about boxing.
Yeah.
How has boxing changed? I'm 23. I've only seen what I've seen, right?
Right.
I don't know the difference between, when Hagler and Hearns and all those guys were fighting.
Right. Well,
how has it changed?
Like we touched on this earlier off camera. As an example, see, and I'll preface that by saying this: if you have 10 fights, like I'll give you an example. Clarissa Shields is whatever weight she's at. I don't know what weight she is, but she's the best in her weight, right? She's the best in the world. That's impressive in the world. But there's only like 23 girls in the whole world in her weight.
Right.
So she's the best of 23, which is cool, but it's a little misleading when you realize that, Arthur's the best of, 840 guys. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the talent pool is different. So being the best in this era might not be the same. And I can prove that with two things. One, I read a thing, and I know it's true. You can tell by the Ring Record book volumes. There were more fighters in New York City in 1950 than there are right now in the entire United States of America. Think about that. One city had more fighters than the whole country, 50 states, and we're talking about just one city. And I can verify that by this, as I told you earlier. Say, for example, between the year 1985 and 1987, in Hartford, I was a 165-pound amateur. So if I needed sparring, there was 4 gyms I could go to. I had my pick of probably, and I could name some of them, Nick Mejia, Robert Murray, Marlon Starlin, Troy Wortham, Michael Bell, Adam Hillerman, Brian Sims, Marcus Jackson, Tyrone Bulls, Edward Rodriguez, Jesus Manzon, Muhammad Shabazz. Those are guys I could spar with anytime I want.
Does that have to do with MMA? Like a lot of fighters are becoming MMA fighters now?
Nah, in Hartford, there's no MMA.
Okay.
There's no guys. But now, so from 1985 to 1987, if I needed sparring, I could go to those guys I just named and 20 more. Today, there's only one kid, and he's a light heavyweight. So 165, 156, 147 in Hartford, there's no one. 0.
So boxing's not as good because
there's nobody there. There's no
less fights?
fighters. There's no fighters. We haven't had a pro fight in Hartford in years. Years back in the day, there was fights in Hartford twice a month, pro fights. There was when I started boxing, there was 4 gyms. They had a series at an event center there called Battle of the Hartford Gyms. They would have one gym fight one gym. So it's just 2 gyms. Now, if you do an amateur show, you got to go to the whole region.
Yeah, you got to go. Right.
We did one gym against one gym, 12 fights.
Really?
We could match up guys. It was Battle of the Hartford Gym. It was Bellevue Square versus Universal Life. Universal Life versus Charter Oak. Charter Oak versus Bellevue Square. Right? Now, you couldn't
it means a lot more to win a title.
You could barely do that in the whole state. Could you find 12 guys to match up, on one show in each weight class, 106, 112, 119, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We did that every 2 months. They did that back in the day. So if you win, like a guy will say, oh, I'm a 6-time Golden Glove champion. Yeah, well, that's because you had to fight one fight.
Right, you had
to fight 5 fights. Mark Breland, to win New York City, not national, to win New York City, he had to fight 6 fights in like 1982, I think it was. 6 fights just to win the New York City Golden Gloves. You know how many guys in New York City there were?
Yeah.
It's unfathomable compared to today. So the talent pool is not there. So the fighter, you're going to have good fighters. There's good fighters. Errol Spence's a good fighter. Crawford's a good fighter. They're all good. Arthur's good. But back in the day, there was a lot of good fighters. There was, middleweights, like I told you earlier, off camera. I said, from 1985 to 1987, at middleweight, you had Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Michael Nunn, Frank Tate, Iran Barkley, Robbie Sims, Murray Sutherland, Frank Fletcher, James Schuler, and I can name 20 other guys.
Right.
Today, 2022, the top 10 middleweights, the only one I can name, and I was just reading about him the other day, like Charlo. Charlo's a middleweight.
Right. I just told you about Charlo.
Oh, you told me, okay. I couldn't name 3 middleweights in the world right now. I have no idea. Because boxing's not on the front page. It's not big like it was. It's a big sport, but there's too much stuff going on.
Is it still possible for a fighter to turn pro and go the traditional route, take a couple fights on the road and then, build a career? Or are we officially in the Instagram era? And because like you said, we're not on the front page anymore, right?
Right. It's tough because, like I said, there's no shows. Because I remember my manager telling me, he said, doing local shows is a losing proposition. You're going to lose money. The only reason you do local shows is to build up your fighters so that they can get signed or move on to bigger fights.
Right.
It's an investment. Nowadays, guys do a show, they lose $6,000, and they don't do any more shows. They want other people to put their guy on. So the era of local shows is gone. And that's why every era thinks their era was the best.
Right.
But I'm telling you, if anyone from this era is going to tell me this era is better than my era, they're either ignorant or they just got too much pride, or they just don't know any better. They have no idea. They have no clue. And my era was better, period. And the era before mine, back in the day, people see James Toney and Floyd Mayweather do the shoulder roll. And it's like a magic trick. Everybody's like, man, everybody's trying to do the James Toney, Floyd Mayweather. Everybody did it in 1950. Everybody did it back then. Watch tapes of Hurricane Carter, Joey Giardello, Archie Moore, Ezra Charles.
I definitely see Archie Moore.
Watch them. They've all done it. They all did it. The shoulder roll was like the jab. Everybody did the shoulder roll. Now 2 guys do it and everybody thinks it's so special.
Right.
You're not special, man. You're unusual because nobody's doing it. That's not a good thing. It's not a good thing that people don't know how to do the shoulder roll. It just proves that nobody knows how to teach it. Nobody is teaching it because nobody heard of it.
Well, I don't want this to, to be over.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate your time.
That was good,
Thank
man.
you so much for coming on.
It was fun.
I really, really appreciate your time.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And I appreciate yours. Thank you.
I've completely forgot my outro, but it's okay. That's it, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope it was a good investment of your time. Follow my man, Iceman John Scully. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Subscribe to mine. Check out my Patreon. And peace.